At my mother-in-law's dinner table, my wife's cousin played a recording that made it sound like I'd been sleeping with her while my wife sat there holding our baby. The recording was real enough to ruin me, but the parts she cut out were worse. My name is Mark Reynolds, and if you had told me a year ago that I'd be sitting alone in a rented apartment outside Columbus, Ohio, staring at a framed photo of my baby girl and trying to understand how one night could burn down an entire life, I would have told you that you had the wrong man. Not because I thought I was perfect. I knew I wasn't, but I thought I was decent, reliable, the kind of man who showed up. I paid the mortgage on time. I worked long days as a project manager for a construction company. I changed diapers at 2 a.m, warmed bottles with one eye open, folded tiny pink onesies, and took out the trash without being asked. Most of the time. I loved my family. Emily and I had been together 3 years. She was a second-grade teacher with blue eyes, a dry sense of humor, and a laugh that could turn a bad day around in seconds. When we met, she wanted a yellow kitchen, a vegetable garden, 2 kids, and a dog named Hank. We got the baby first. Our daughter, Lily, was 6 months old when everything started to crack. Lily was beautiful in the way all babies are beautiful to their parents. But to me, she was something more. She had Emily's eyes and my stubborn chin, and when she smiled at me, I felt like the world had forgiven me for every mistake I'd ever made. But after Lily was born, Emily changed. At first, I told myself it was just exhaustion. Newborns don't care if you have work in the morning. They don't care if your back aches, or if your nerves are frayed, or if you and the woman you love haven't had a real conversation in weeks that wasn't about bottles, diapers, or whose turn it was to sleep. We were both tired. Then tired became quiet. Quiet became suspicious. And suspicion became accusation. "Who keeps texting you?" Emily asked one night while I was standing at the kitchen counter answering a message from work. "Nobody. Dan from the job site." "You smiled." "I didn't smile." "Yes, you did." I held up my phone. He sent me a picture of the wrong cabinets being delivered to the Miller house. "I'm not flirting with cabinetry." A year earlier, she would have laughed. That night, she just stared at me. The accusations kept coming in little pieces. Why did I come home late? Why did I shower right after work? Why did my jacket smell like perfume? That one made me stop. "Perfume?" I said. Emily stood in the laundry room holding my work jacket like it was evidence in a murder trial. "Yes, Mark, perfume." "I don't know what you're talking about." She pressed the collar toward me. "Smell it," I did. There was something faint there, floral, sweet. "I don't know," I said. "Maybe somebody at work hugged me? Maybe it brushed up against something? Somebody at work hugged you?" "No, that's not what I meant," her face tightened. I hated that look, not because it made me angry at first, but because it scared me. It was like she was moving away from me while standing right in front of me. Then one night, while I was rinsing bottles at the sink, Emily came into the kitchen holding Lily against her shoulder. "Are you having an affair?" I turned off the faucet. "What? You heard me! Emily, no!" Her hair was pulled into a messy knot. Her sweatshirt had spit up on the sleeve. Her eyes were red, not from crying exactly, but from holding back tears for too long. "Is it somebody from work?" she asked. "That woman who called last weekend?" "Rachel? She's the office administrator. She called because a supplier messed up an order." "Natalie said she heard you laughing on the phone with her," I frowned. "Natalie said that? She said she didn't want to upset me, but she thought I should know." Something in me went cold, but I ignored it. I was too focused on defending myself. "I'm not cheating on you," I said. Emily looked down at Lily, then back at me. "I don't know who you are lately." That hit me harder than the accusation, because the truth was, I didn't know who she was lately either. I wanted to be patient. I really did. I knew childbirth had changed her body, her sleep, her hormones, her sense of self. I knew motherhood had swallowed her whole. Sometimes when I looked at her, I could still see the woman I fell in love with trapped somewhere behind those exhausted eyes. But resentment is dangerous. It doesn't arrive like a storm. It seeps in under the door, and in our house, that door was opened by Emily's cousin, Natalie. Natalie was 27 and had been staying with us for a few weeks while she got back on her feet. That was the phrase Emily's mother used. Natalie had moved up from Nashville after a breakup with some musician who apparently had two hobbies, whiskey and lying. She showed up with 3 suitcases, a box of scented candles, and a smile that made people lower their guard before they realized they'd done it. I never trusted that smile. Not completely. Natalie was pretty in a way that seemed practiced. Long auburn hair, tight jeans, lip gloss, even at breakfast. She was always brushing past people in the hallway, always laughing a little too loudly, always saying things like, "Mark, you're such a good dad," while holding my eyes a second longer than she needed to. I ignored it, or I told myself I did. Emily was happy to have her there. Natalie held Lily so Emily could shower. She made pasta one night and chicken chili the next. She told Emily she looked beautiful when Emily clearly didn't believe it. For a while, the house felt lighter. At least, I thought it did. Later, I found out that while Natalie was pretending to be Emily's support system, she was feeding the worst parts of Emily's fear. She told Emily my work text seemed too friendly. She asked questions like, "Does Mark always come home this late?" She once sprayed a little of her perfume near the collar of my jacket before tossing it onto the laundry room bench. She would say things softly, carefully, like she was helping. "I don't want to put thoughts in your head, but you deserve to know if something feels off." And Emily, already drowning in postpartum anxiety, believed her. That's the part I didn't understand until much later. Emily wasn't just suspicious of me. She was being guided there, one whisper at a time. The day after Emily asked me if I was having an affair, she took Lily to her mother's house in Marysville for the afternoon. Her mom, Linda, lived on a quiet street where everyone still waved from their front porches and noticed whose truck was in whose driveway. I came home early from work, still stinging from Emily's accusation. The house was empty and quiet, which had become a rare luxury. I opened a beer, then another, and sat on the couch with a baseball game on that I wasn't really watching. I kept hearing Emily's voice. "Are you having an affair?" The unfairness of it burned in my chest. I had been faithful. I had been trying. I was tired too, but nobody seemed to care how I was holding up. Nobody asked if I felt invisible. Nobody asked if I missed us. Then Natalie came home. She walked in through the side door with grocery bags looped over her wrists. "Well, look at this," she said. "A man alone in his natural habitat." I forced a smile. "Hey!" She set the bags down and looked at me. "You okay?" "Fine." "You don't look fine." Long day. She came into the living room and sat on the far end of the couch. Not too close, just close enough. "Emily seemed upset yesterday," she said. I stared at the TV. "Emily's been upset a lot lately." Natalie tilted her head. "She told me she thinks you're cheating." My face got hot. Great. So now she's telling everybody. Not everybody, just me. Natalie's voice softened. "For what it's worth," I told her she was being crazy. I looked at her then. She smiled. "You don't seem like the cheating type." "I'm not. I know." There are moments in life when you can feel the guardrail coming up ahead. You know that if you just turn the wheel a little, if you just slow down, if you just do the right thing, you'll be safe. I didn't turn. Natalie moved closer. "She doesn't appreciate you," she said. "That's not true, isn't it? I should have stood up. I should have gone for a walk. I should have called Emily and told her I was hurt and angry and scared. I should have done anything except sit there. But I was angry. I was hurt. I was a little drunk. And underneath all of that, I was weak in a way I had never wanted to admit." Natalie put her hand on my arm. "You deserve to feel wanted, Mark." That sentence landed exactly where she meant it to. I laughed nervously and said, "Natalie," but she leaned in. And when she kissed me, I kissed her back. At first, it felt unreal, like something happening to another man in another house. Then it became very real, very quickly. I won't dress it up. I won't blame the beer. I won't blame Emily's accusations. I won't blame Natalie's flirting or whatever game she was playing. I knew what I was doing. I knew it was wrong. And I did it anyway. The guilt came almost immediately. By the time Natalie left the guest room and I sat alone on the edge of the bed, I felt like I had stepped outside my own life and locked the door behind me. Emily came home an hour later with Lily asleep in her car seat. I carried in the diaper bag. I kissed my daughter's forehead. Emily looked tired, but calmer. "Mom made a roast," she said. "She sent leftovers." "Good," I said. My voice sounded strange to me. That night, Emily reached for my hand in bed. I almost broke right there. For the next 2 weeks, I lived like a man being followed. Natalie tried to catch my eye in the kitchen. I avoided her. She brushed against me near the laundry room. I stepped back. She texted me once. "We need to talk." I deleted it. I became extra attentive to Emily. I washed bottles before she asked. I got up with Lily. I brought home flowers from Kroger and said they were just because. Emily softened. That should have made me feel better. It made me feel worse. Because every kind thing she did reminded me of what I had done. Then one Thursday evening, everything blew up. Emily had taken Lily for a walk around the neighborhood. I was in the garage pretending to organize tools when Natalie came in and shut the door behind her. "We need to talk," she said. I didn't turn around. "No, we don't." "Yes, we do." "Natalie, what happened was a mistake." "A mistake?" She laughed. "But there was no humor in it. That's what you're calling it?" "That's what it was." She stepped closer. "It didn't feel like a mistake," I faced her then. "It was. And it can never happen again." Her eyes changed. The softness disappeared. "You don't get to use me and then play devoted husband. I didn't use you." "Oh, please." "I'm serious. I'm sorry. I'm ashamed of what happened. But it's over." Natalie folded her arms. "No, it's not. Something cold moved through me. What does that mean?" She looked me straight in the eye and said, "I'm pregnant." The garage seemed to tilt. I gripped the edge of the workbench. "What? I'm pregnant, Mark. That's not possible." "It's very possible. I couldn't breathe." "How do you know it's mine?" The second I said it, I knew how ugly it sounded. Her face hardened. "Careful. Natalie, I'm asking because you're scared. Yes, I'm scared. You should be." She pulled out her phone, and that was the first time I noticed her hand had been in the pocket of her hoodie the entire conversation. "If you don't want Emily to know," she said, "then you and I are going to continue what we started." I stared at her. "What? You heard me. That's insane." "No, what's insane is you thinking you can throw me away and go back to your perfect little family." "My family is not perfect." "Then you won't mind if I tell her." Outside, I heard Emily's voice coming up the driveway, soft and sweet, talking to Lily in her stroller. Natalie slipped her phone back into her pocket. "You have 24 hours, she whispered. Then she walked inside. I stayed in the garage until my legs stopped shaking. That night, I didn't sleep. Emily lay beside me, breathing softly, one hand curled under her cheek. Lily fussed at 2:17, and I got up to feed her. In the nursery, under the soft glow of the nightlight, my daughter wrapped her tiny fingers around mine. That was the moment I understood something. I had been afraid of losing my family, but the truth was, I had already betrayed them. Keeping the secret wasn't protecting Emily. It wasn't protecting Lily. It was protecting me. By morning, I knew I had to tell Emily everything, but cowardice has a way of asking for just a few more hours. Emily's mother had invited us to dinner that night. Her brother, Kevin, was going to be there too. Emily wanted to go. She said it would be good for her to get out of the house, to sit at a table where someone else had cooked the food. I told myself I would tell her after dinner. Just one more normal evening. Just one more chance to sit beside her before I destroyed her. That was another lie I told myself. Dinner at Linda's house was pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, and a store-bought pie warming in the oven. The kind of family dinner that used to make me feel lucky. Lily sat in her portable high chair, slapping the tray and babbling at everyone. Kevin cracked jokes. Linda fussed over Emily, telling her she looked too thin and needed to eat more. Natalie was quiet, too quiet. I should have known. Halfway through dinner, Emily reached for my hand under the table. She squeezed it once, like maybe she was trying too. And then Natalie set her fork down. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice trembling just enough to make everyone look at her. "I can't do this anymore," Emily frowned. "Do what?" Natalie looked at me. "I tried to protect you," she said to Emily. "But you deserve to know the truth," my stomach dropped. "Natalie," I said. She pulled out her phone. The recording started with my voice. What happened was a mistake. Then Natalie's voice. It didn't feel like a mistake. My voice again. It was. And it can never happen again. But then the recording jumped. Her edited version cut out the parts where I said I was ashamed. It cut out her threats. It cut out the blackmail. What everyone heard was a jagged, ugly version of the truth. Natalie saying, "If you don't want Emily to know, then you and I are going to continue what we started." Then my voice, edited from another sentence. "My family is not perfect." Then Natalie again. "Then you won't mind if I tell her." The room went completely still. Emily stared at the phone, then at Natalie, then at me. Her face drained of color so fast I thought she might faint. "What is that?" she whispered. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Kevin stood up so quickly his chair scraped backward across the floor. "You son of a..." "Kevin!" Linda snapped, but even she was staring at me like I was something rotten that had been brought into her house. Emily pushed back from the table. "Is it true?" I looked at her, at Lily in her high chair, at Linda with one hand over her mouth, at Kevin ready to come across the table, at Natalie sitting there with tears in her eyes that I no longer believed, and I had no place left to hide. "Yes," I said. Emily flinched like I'd struck her. I started talking then. Too late, too fast. I told her about the beer, the kiss, the guest room, the guilt, the garage, the pregnancy claim, the threat. I told her Natalie had recorded me. I told her the recording was edited, but the damage was already done. There are some humiliations that happen in private, and then there are the kind that happen under a dining room light, in front of your mother and your brother, while your baby daughter bangs a spoon against a plastic tray because she doesn't understand that her family has just split open. Emily didn't scream. That was worse. She stood there trembling, her arms wrapped around herself, staring at me like she was watching a stranger wear my skin. Then she looked at Natalie. "You were helping me," Emily said, her voice barely audible. Natalie's expression flickered. I was trying to." "You were helping me," Emily repeated, and this time her voice broke. "I trusted you." I took one step toward Emily. She backed away. "Don't, Emily. Don't touch me." Kevin came around the table then and shoved me hard in the chest. "Get out." I didn't fight him. I didn't have the right. I drove home alone, packed a bag with shaking hands, and left before Emily got back with Lily. I slept that night at a cheap motel near the interstate, listening to trucks groan past my window and wondering if this was what my life sounded like now. Over the next few days, the truth spread through the family like fire through dry grass. Linda called me a disgrace. Kevin left me a voicemail saying if I came near Emily without permission, he'd put me in the hospital. Natalie denied editing the recording at first. Then Kevin, who knew enough about phones to be dangerous, noticed the audio had cuts in it. When Emily demanded Natalie play the original, Natalie cried and said she had deleted it. That's when things started unraveling. Emily went back through the previous weeks in her mind. The perfume on my jacket. The comments about Rachel. The way Natalie had always been nearby when Emily spiraled. The way she asked questions that sounded caring but somehow left Emily more afraid. Then Emily found the perfume bottle in Natalie's room. Same scent as my jacket. She found a text Natalie had sent to a friend in Nashville that said, "He's easier than I thought, but the girlfriend is the problem." And when Emily confronted her, Natalie finally cracked just enough. "I was trying to show you who he really was," Natalie said. Emily told me later that was the moment something inside her went quiet because she realized she had been betrayed twice, by the man she loved, and by the cousin she had trusted to hold her up when she was drowning. 2 weeks later, after Emily demanded proof of Natalie's pregnancy and a plan for a paternity test, Natalie's story began to fall apart too. She was pregnant, yes, but the dates didn't line up. Then another man surfaced, an ex-boyfriend from Nashville. The musician, the one with the whiskey and the lies. By the time the truth came out, Natalie left town in the middle of the night, leaving behind a trash bag full of clothes, 2 unpaid parking tickets, and a family that would never look at her the same way again. But her lies didn't erase my truth. I had still cheated. I had still made the choice, and Emily still had to live with it. For 3 months, we barely spoke except about Lily. I moved into a small apartment with beige walls, thin carpet, and a refrigerator that hummed like an old lawnmower. Every other evening, I came over to see my daughter. I'd sit on the living room floor building towers with soft blocks while Emily stayed in the kitchen pretending not to watch. I started therapy. At first, I went because Emily said if I wanted any chance of being in Lily's life peacefully, I needed help. Then I kept going because I realized she was right. I learned that anger can be a mask for fear. That feeling unappreciated doesn't give you permission to destroy someone else. That being honest after betrayal doesn't make you noble. It just makes you late. Emily started therapy too, for postpartum anxiety. But even as we slowly built a fragile rhythm around Lily, I didn't understand the full cost of what I'd done until the night Lily got sick. It was January. Bitter cold. The kind of Ohio night where the wind rattles the windows and the roads shine with black ice. I had just gotten back to my apartment after work when I saw a missed call from Emily. Then another. Then a text. Adder with Lily. Fever 105. They're checking her now. I called immediately. Emily answered on the second ring, and I could hear hospital sounds behind her. Beeping monitors. Shoes squeaking on tile. A baby crying somewhere nearby. "What happened?" I asked, already grabbing my coat. She spiked a fever. She was shaking, Mark. I didn't know what to do. "Why didn't you call me sooner?" There was a pause. "My mom said we should just go." I stopped with my keys in my hand. "What do you mean? She was here. She said not to waste time calling you. She drove us." "I'm her father." Emily's voice cracked. "I know, but she didn't say anything else." And in that silence, I understood. Before, I would have been the first call. The automatic call. The person Emily reached for when something went wrong. Now I was a notification after the fact. I drove to the hospital with my hands locked around the steering wheel, whispering, "Please, God, please," over and over like I had any right to ask for mercy. When I got there, Linda was in the waiting area with her purse clutched in her lap. She stood when she saw me. For a second, I thought she might block me. Maybe part of her wanted to. But Emily stepped into the hallway then, pale and exhausted, and said, "Let him come back." Lily was lying on a hospital bed in nothing but a diaper, her cheeks flushed red, her hair damp with sweat. An IV was taped to her tiny hand. I had seen lumber piles collapse, roofs cave in, men fall from ladders. Nothing had ever scared me like that. I stood beside the bed and touched Lily's foot because I was afraid to touch anything else. "Hey, bug," I whispered. "Daddy's here." Her eyes fluttered, but she didn't wake up. The doctors got the fever down. It turned out to be a bad viral infection, terrifying but manageable. By morning, Lily was stable, sleeping against Emily's chest while I sat in a plastic chair with my elbows on my knees, emptied out by fear. Emily looked at me across the dim hospital room. "My mom shouldn't have told me not to call you," I swallowed. "No," I said. "But I understand why she thought she could." Emily's eyes filled. That was the night I realized my betrayal hadn't just cost me Emily's trust as a partner. It had cost me my assumed place as Lily's father in a crisis. I was still her dad. I would always be her dad. But trust is what gives someone the right to be reached for without hesitation. And I had broken that. After that night, something changed in me. Not dramatically, not in some movie scene way, but quietly. I stopped asking Emily for reassurance. I stopped trying to rush forgiveness. I stopped saying, "But Natalie manipulated everything," as if that somehow softened what I had done. Natalie had lit matches, but I had poured the gasoline. Months passed. Emily and I had hard conversations on her front porch after Lily went to sleep. Sometimes we spoke calmly. Sometimes one of us cried. Sometimes the silences said more than the words. One evening, with cicadas buzzing in the trees and the porch light drawing moths against the glass, Emily told me about those early months after Lily was born. "I felt like I disappeared," she said. "Everyone asked about the baby. Nobody asked about me. My body didn't feel like mine. My mind didn't feel like mine." And then Natalie kept saying these little things. And I thought maybe I was crazy, but also maybe I wasn't. I looked down at my hands. "I should have noticed. You were tired, too. That's not an excuse." "No," she said softly. "It's not," I nodded. She wiped her eyes. "I'm not saying my accusations were fair. I'm saying I was drowning." "I know," I said. "And instead of reaching for you, I punished you for it." She looked away, crying quietly. We didn't reconcile overnight. This isn't that kind of story. Trust doesn't come back because someone says they're sorry. It comes back in inches, in kept promises, in answered phone calls, in showing up when it's inconvenient, in hard conversations where nobody storms out, in learning to sit with shame without making it someone else's fault. A year after I moved out, Emily invited me to Lily's first birthday party. Not just to attend, to help set up. I got there early with balloons, folding chairs, and a cake shaped like a ladybug from a bakery Emily loved in Worthington. Emily opened the door wearing jeans and a yellow sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. For a second, I saw the woman I met years before. Then I saw something more. A woman who had been hurt and had survived it. A woman who owed me nothing. "Hey," she said. "Hey." In the backyard, Lily sat in her high chair wearing a pink birthday crown, smashing frosting across her cheeks while everyone laughed. Linda was there, still cool toward me, but civil. Kevin gave me a stiff nod and didn't threaten my teeth, which I counted as progress. Emily stood beside me near the fence while Lily squealed over a red balloon. "I don't know what we're going to be," she said quietly. I swallowed. "Me neither. But I know what I want Lily to see." "What's that?" Emily looked at me. "Two parents who tell the truth, even when it costs them." My eyes burned. "I can do that," I said. She gave me a sad little smile. "You have to do more than say it, Mark." "I know." And for the first time in a long time, I really did. Emily and I are not married now. We're not back together in the way people like to imagine after a hard story. There was no dramatic kiss in the rain, no sudden forgiveness, no clean ending tied up with a bow. But there is peace. I pick up Lily 3 nights a week. Emily and I sit together at pediatrician appointments. I am the first call now when Lily is sick, not because I demanded it, but because I earned back enough trust for Emily to make it. We share birthday mornings and Christmas Eve. Sometimes we have dinner as a family, and sometimes afterward, when I'm leaving, Emily walks me to the door and we talk for a few minutes about work, about Lily, about life. There are days when I still hope, but I don't ask for more than she's ready to give, because love, real love, is not just wanting someone back. It's becoming the kind of person who would never hurt them that way again, even if they never come back at all. I made one terrible choice in a moment of anger and weakness, but that choice taught me something I will carry for the rest of my life. Betrayal doesn't begin in the bedroom. It begins when you stop being honest about your pain. And healing doesn't begin with being forgiven. It begins with telling the truth.